I love that this show can give a platform to independent creators.
You sure about that, Jeff? Every single year I continue to subject myself to the event known as Jeff Keeley's The Game Awards. Every year I go in knowing I'm going to hate it, and every year I hate it. Of course, I don't just sit back and watch it, I watch one of the many streamers who talk over it. This year I joined the Remap radio crew, but even with 3 other people also ragging on the event, it was often a drag. But in a year full of Keeley showcases that grated against my personal preferences, the 2023 show had moments that really, truly rubbed me the wrong way. While I don't think he's taken it to heart per se, Keeley has definitely heard the criticisms from past shows, and he did his best to address them.
Now tonight, it's not lost on me that all of our Game of the Year nominees are from big established franchises.
A few moments throughout the show, he tried to profess his love for independent games, independent studios. Look at this, he says, we're putting an indie game on the big stage.
You may have recognized that incredible creator who built her own independent studio in Tokyo. I said, come to this show, just show it to the audience and the fans first.
But words are only just that, and despite his declarations, I still felt something was off. So I did some math. I went through every video game shown at this year's The Game Awards to see if Keeley's actions backed up his words. During the show, games were shown in mainly 2 different ways. Game trailers were usually a new game or new content for an existing game, or in Hellblade's case, more footage from this hypothetical game, were shown. And game advertisements, where a studio or company would pay to show an ad, like this terrible Clash of Clans trailer. What I didn't do was count any nominee or winner, since they were all chosen by committee. I only want to look at what Keeley and his team had on their hands. As to how I counted, there are a couple edge cases I wanted to address. Technically, Sega announced 5 different games in their single trailer, so I included all 5 in my count, even though I doubt we'll see any of them anytime soon, if at all. But also Final Fantasy XVI announced 2 DLCs, I'm only considering it as Final Fantasy XVI, and Fortnite mentioned 3 different sub-games, I'm wrapping them all up as just Fortnite. I did add up all of these by myself, but I do want to say I cross-referenced my list with IGN's, which is how I found these potential discrepancies in the first place. Finally, after scrubbing through the footage, I came up with a sum total of 71 games that were shown at the 2023 The Game Awards. After doing so, I went through each that might have been from an independent studio, and double-checked they were in fact independent. As it turns out, Tencent and Nexon own a lot of different studios, and seemingly try to obfuscate that knowledge. But after diving through a couple dozen games, I found that 19 of the 71 games shown throughout the event were from independent developers. As a note, I'm not considering Dave the Diver's collab with Dredge an indie game. Dave the Diver is not, but Dredge is. But the game is still mostly Dave the Diver, and by the developer Mint Rocket's admission, they are not an independent studio. I'm also not counting the EA-published Tales of Kenzera, due to EA's involvement, but it looks really sick. So with that, the indie games shown at the Game Awards were Pony Island 2, The Rise of the Golden Idol, Usual June, The Matchless Kung Fu, Harmonium the Musical, Windblown, Thrasher, World of Goo 2, Big Walk, Kemuri, Ikumi Nakamura's new studio's project, No Rest for the Wicked, Black Myth Wukong, Ready or Not, Palia, No Man's Sky, again I'm counting appearances, Light No Fire, Stormgate, Baldur's Gate 3, which is technically an indie, and Bellwright. After some quick math, that actually seems pretty fair. A total of 26.8% of the games shown were indie. But there had to be a reason for my icky feeling. I dove deeper. See, the Game Awards are actually split in 2, the 30-minute pre-show and the near 3-hour-long main show. Both give out Game Awards and both announce games, only the pre-show is hosted by Sydney Goodman, where the main show is hosted by Keeley himself. And once I split the numbers, it's a little more damning. There were 15 games shown during the pre-show, 56 during the main. Of the 19 indie games shown throughout the entire 3.5-hour affair, 8 of them were shown during the pre-show. Almost half of the indie games shown were pushed to the shorter segment with far less viewership. Accounting for this split, 8 of the pre-show's 15 games, 53.3%, were from independent creators. During the main show, only 11 of the 56, 19.6%, were indie. But I didn't rest there. I mentioned earlier that some games were trailers, other were ads. This matters because, theoretically, any studio can buy an ad spot. It doesn't matter if Keeley or his team seeked them out or not. These are sometimes obvious. When logos like Nvidia or Discord pop up, it's clear that they're there due to some cash flow. Other times, it's slightly less obvious. For instance, Starfield didn't get any nominations and didn't announce anything new, but Microsoft or Bethesda paid to air a trailer. And I thought, how many of these indie games that Keeley apparently loves so much had to pay to even be included? There were no indie ads during the pre-show, as far as I could tell at least. The main show, on the other hand, I found 3 of the 11 games shown were advertisements. Palia, an indie MMO with lots of funding, Baldur's Gate 3, the Game of the Year winner, and Bellwright, a medieval simulation game, all had to pay the Game Awards to have their trailers shown. This means that during the main show, only 8 of the 11 indie games were courted by Keeley's team. Only 14.3% of the games shown were indies that Keeley wanted. But hey, trailers are only 99% of the Game Awards. The other 1% are the awards themselves, and I'm sure Keeley gave substantial time for independent devs to be on stage. Announcement-wise, Ikumi Nakamura was given a little over a minute to announce Kemuri, and Sean Murray was given 2.5 to talk about No Man's Sky and Light No Fire. However, both of these are returning artists. Developers Keeley can point to and say, "Hey, you were here before." Also a returning artist is Carolyn Marshall, one of the devs behind the 2022 Games for Impact winner As Dusk Falls. She was given about 45 seconds to announce this year's Game for Impact nominees. Unfortunately, the Chia devs were unable to accept the award in person, but Sony's Shuhei Yoshida was able to read their acceptance speech on their behalf, and he was able to finish the speech before the music cut him off, something no other dev the entire night was given the grace of. Speaking of, while the Cocoon devs were unable to accept their award for Best Debut Indie, Evan Eisenbeis was able to give a short speech on their behalf. Lisa Aquilino attempted to add to it before being cut off by the transition music.
Thank you.
The music played through her entire portion, albeit slightly dimmed, but still. At the very least, the Sea of Stars developers were able to give a heartwarming speech accepting their award for Best Independent Game. Wait, oh right, the Best Independent Game, you know, the types of devs that Jeff loves giving a platform to, was rattled off in 15 seconds, wedged between Best Score in Music and Best Community Support. Of the 3 categories focused on indies, the one with the highest honor wasn't given any stage time. And Baldur's Gate 3, technically an indie, Baldur's Gate 3 won 6 awards. Neil Newbon had his speech cut off as he accepted the award for Best Performance.
And to my agents, I will thank you later. I'm sorry, I'm going to wrap it up apparently.
4 of their other wins were read off in quick succession. Then, finally, the team was able to walk on stage and accept their award for Game of the Year. And while they were given more than the stringent 30 seconds to accept the award, the timer remained, as Swan Vinky dedicates the award to a team member who recently passed. He's greeted by a screen dictating, "Please wrap it up." What an honor. Really, this all leads into the wider problem with the Game Awards as a whole. Yes, there's not a big indie presence, but that's mainly because Jeff Keeley doesn't like many indie games. He has certainly heard the feedback, he addressed some of it on stage, but the Game Awards are never going to be better for independent developers. They're not going to be better for developers in general, because it's not Keeley's prerogative. He doesn't want to talk about half of these crappy titles, so he pawns it off on Goodman in the pre-show. He's more excited to mention he played Big Walk a year ago than he was to announce the game itself.
I did a playtest of that game about a year ago and had so much fun.
He's happier to have done a terrible Gonzo skit than he was to announce Best Debut Indie. He's more than happy to have returning guests Nakamura and Murray. Nakamura was beloved the last time she appeared, and Hello Games has since been able to rebuild trust after No Man's Sky's initial launch, and he understands both will be a big hit for the audience. Most egregious of all, Jeff Keeley loves to have celebrities.
It's an incredible thrill to introduce a true Renaissance man. Please welcome Academy Award-winning actor and New York Times best-selling author, Matthew McConaughey.
He couldn't be more excited to bring out Celebrity Who Doesn't Play Games number 3126, 27, and 28. Matthew McConaughey wasn't even in the trailer he announced. Timothée Chalamet clearly didn't want to be there. Simu Liu talked about his broken foot longer than any developer was given to accept their award.
My foot's fine, you guys.
Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele had 9 minutes to talk about their new game that didn't even have any gameplay footage. Unless it's an FMV game, it might be an FMV game. Jeff Keeley doesn't care about games. He doesn't care about developers. He cares about his friends, he cares about celebrities, and he cares about being the one on stage. And as long as his name is on the tin, it will never get better. Thanks for watching. I guess I need to let my hate out about once a year. I didn't even mention how I think Keeley is also just a bad host in general. It would be a better product if Goodman hosted the full show. Plus how horrible it is that Keeley ignored past future Class of Gaming winners and their plea to address the genocide in Palestine. Or how nobody mentioned the thousands of layoffs that occurred throughout the past year. And what can we even do? Stop watching? I'm using this term pejoratively. We're gamers. We're not gonna stop watching. What if there's a cool trailer? Ending on a lighter note, I'm happy with all the winners. I'm glad Mario and Zelda and Hi-Fi Rush were recognized. Happy for Alan Wake 2, and I understand Baldur's Gate 3 deserves their wins even if I haven't played. Can't wait to watch that performance of Herald of Darkness when I finally get around to playing Alan Wake 2. More on that coming soon. Speaking of, if you like this, leave a rating, maybe leave a comment, and subscribe to get notified of any other video I release. You can follow me on social medias where I'm at Mario8 everywhere. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.